Wait, so imagine this, like a hidden world where ancient myths aren't just stories. They're real, walking among us. And they're dealing with, modern life, family drama, even their own mortality. What if all that fantasy felt, well, really grounded? Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a really unique set of sources about the Japanese anime, the Eccentric Family, or Uchouten Kazoku. And this isn't just about watching a fun show, it's about seeing how a modern story can take traditional folklore and totally reimagine it to talk about some pretty deep universal stuff. So our mission today, we want to unpack how this series, it's set in Kyoto and the detail is incredible. It uses these famous figures, the shapeshifting Tanuki.
Raccoon dogs, right?
Exactly, those guys. And the proud sort of bird-like Tengu, how it uses them not just as fantasy extras, but as these really complex ways to explore big ideas.
Ideas like family, dealing with grief, identity, and that constant push and pull between tradition and, well, everything modern.
Right. So, just to set the scene for you.
Yeah.
The world is modern Kyoto, looks totally normal. But underneath, you've got three societies coexisting, humans, Tanuki, and Tengu. And the humans, mostly clueless about all the magic happening around them. Our main focus is the Shimogamo clan. They're Tanuki, and they're kind of falling apart after their dad, the patriarch Suichiro, died mysteriously.
And it was a pretty grim end, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In a hot pot, cooked by this secret human group, the Friday fellas.
Yeah, exactly. It's dark.
But that realism, putting these magical beings in a Kyoto you could basically go visit, it makes the fantasy feel strangely authentic. It really pushes you to think about how myth and the present day kind of rub up against each other, how they reshape each other. It's almost an allegory, maybe, for Japan itself, figuring out its traditions in the modern world.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, so before we get right into the anime's plot, let's dig into those roots, the folklore. Can you tell us about the traditional stories? What are Tanuki and Tengu in Japanese myth?
Sure. Let's start with the Tanuki. Now, there's the real animal, the raccoon dog, but the mythological one, the baked Tanuki. Its history is fascinating. Way back in the 8th century, in texts like the Nihon Shoki, they could be pretty ominous figures.
Oh, really? Not just the cheerful statues, then?
Not originally, no. Yeah. But by the Edo period, maybe 17th, 18th century, their image really shifted. They became more, mischievous tricksters, still causing trouble, but usually less harmful.
Okay, so what could they do? What were their main powers?
Shapeshifting. That's the big one. It's called henge. And creating illusions. They were masters of disguise.
Like turning into people?
People, other animals, even things. There's a famous story of Bunbuku Chagama, where a tanuki turns into a tea kettle.
A tea kettle? Seriously?
Yep. And apparently putting a lotus leaf on their head helped with the transformation. They'd also trick people using leaves disguised as money. Classic trickster stuff.
It's that duality that gets me. They're powerful magicians, but also kind of goofy, jolly, love their food and sake, but maybe a bit absent-minded or gullible.
Exactly. That's a key difference from, say, the kitsune, the foxes, who are often seen as more cunning or even malicious. Tanuki tricks are often just for fun, and that playful image is why they became symbols of good luck. Those statues you see outside restaurants and bars, with the flask, the note.
And the prominent features.
And the humorously large testicles, yes. Supposedly symbolizing wealth, like golden bags. It's all part of that benign, prosperous image.
But you said they had a darker side in some stories. It wasn't all fun and games.
Definitely not. There are darker tales. Kachi Kachiyama is one, pretty grim, features a really cruel tanuki. And some regions, like Shikoku, had legends of powerful tanuki leaders. Figures like Danzaburu Tanuki or Inugami Kyujibu, commanding huge clans, fighting battles. There's even a story called the Awa Tanuki Gassen, like a legendary tanuki war.
Wow. Okay, so the Eccentric Family definitely makes a choice there. It leans heavily into the trickster, the fun-loving side, and mostly leaves out that darker potential.
It really does. Which in turn makes the human threat, the Friday Fellows, feel that much more chilling and sort of unnatural in the context of this otherwise quite whimsical world.
Okay, what about the Tengu then? Their look is so iconic.
The Tengu, instantly recognizable. Their origins are interesting too. They go back to a Chinese creature, the Tiangu, a heavenly dog seen as an omen of war.
A dog. But they look like birds, mostly.
Right. When the idea came to Japan, it changed a lot. It shifted from this celestial omen to a creature of the mountains, a yukai.
And the look evolved too.
Massively. Early on, more like kites or birds of prey. But by maybe the 14th century, you get that classic image. The red face, the wings, and that super long nose.
Which wasn't always a nose, right?
Exactly. It's thought to be a humanized version of a bird's beak.
Yeah.
And there's a hierarchy too, the big powerful Dai Tengu, the great Tengu, and then the lesser ones sometimes with crow beaks, the Kotengu or Karasu Tengu.
And pride, that seems central. I remember hearing the phrase Tengu ni naru means becoming a Tengu, but it's used to mean getting arrogant.
That's absolutely spot on. Their pride is legendary, often tied to their power. They're depicted as incredible martial artists, sword masters, the famous warrior Minamoto no Yoshitsune. Legend says he learned swordsmanship from Sudbu, the Tengu king on Mount Kurama.
Wow.
They also had powers like controlling wind with a magical feather fan, the Hakuchua, and they're linked to Shugendu, these mountain ascetic practices.
What about their connection to Buddhism? That sounded complicated.
Very. At first, they were often seen as disruptive, like demons trying to lead monks astray. Bad priests, especially proud ones, were sometimes thought to be reborn as Tengu.
So enemies of Buddhism.
Initially, often yes.
Okay.
But later, the image softened a bit. They became more like guardians of the mountains. Still stern, maybe dangerous, but protective in a way.
So back to the anime, how does the Eccentric Family use this idea of Tengu pride, especially as like a fatal flaw?
It dives right into it. Professor Akadama, who's the main Tengu character, he's a fallen Dai Tengu. He hurt his back and can't fly anymore.
Wow. For a Tengu, that's huge.
It's everything. It's not just physical. It's an existential blow. His whole identity is tied up in being this powerful flying creature. So it turns this mighty figure from folklore into someone, well, deeply tragic. He's grappling with getting old, with loss, with how fragile that pride really is when faced with reality.
Okay, so we've got the folklore background. Now, how does the anime actually build its world using these ideas? How does it make Tanuki and Tengu society feel, real within Kyoto?
It does it brilliantly. Take the Tanuki society. It really hinges on this rivalry between two main families. The Shimogamo, our protagonists, and the Ibisugawa.
The Shimogamo live in a forest, right? Tawasu no Mori.
Yeah, in the grounds of an old shrine. They represent this sort of traditional, fun-loving Tanuki spirit. They value living an interesting life. The Ibisugawa, though, led by this really bitter guy, San Dewey, they're all about ruthless, kind of modern ambition. They even run an electric wine factory.
An electric wine factory, okay. That sounds very unfolksy.
Exactly. It feels like a modern take on those old Tanuki clan wars, like the Awa Tanuki Gassen. But instead of fighting, it's politics.
Politics.
They're vying for the top position in Tanuki society, the Nis Imon. Basically, the trick magister. It's supposed to go to the Tanuki who's best at clever deception and, crucially, living that interesting life.
So the election is really about what it means to be a Tanuki now. Shimogamo trying to live up to their dad's legacy of fun and honor. Versus Ibisugawa, who seems to want power for its own sake, almost like a human politician.
Precisely. And central to the Shimogamo identity is this concept they inherit from their father. The idiot blood, Ahu no Chi.
Idiot blood, that sounds bad.
It sounds bad, but it's not. It's their philosophy. It means choosing fun, choosing interesting life, choosing connection over just being practical or ambitious. It's what makes them different from the Ibisugawa and from the humans. It's their joy, but it also makes them vulnerable.
Okay, and then there's Akadama, the fallen Tengu. His fall is such a powerful image. How does his situation affect the world?
Well, losing flight isn't just about him. He becomes this bitter, grumpy old man, clinging to his pride, drinking a lot. It represents maybe the decline of old power, the sadness of becoming obsolete in a changing world.
And he tries to pass on his legacy, doesn't he, to Benton?
Right, Benton. He kidnapped her as a human child and tried to raise her as a Tengu, which complicated things massively.
She has Tengu powers, but isn't really a Tengu or human.
Exactly. She's caught between worlds. Akadama's failure, his inability to accept his own decline, created this incredibly powerful being who doesn't belong anywhere. She moves between human, Tanuki, and Tengu societies, but she's always an outsider.
So his personal tragedy creates this ripple effect of instability.
Definitely. It shows how when one tradition or one leader falters, it can unleash something new and unpredictable and potentially dangerous because Benton is so untethered.
Which brings us back to the humans and that conflict. The Friday Fellows feel so modernly evil.
It's a really chilling update on the old human-yukai conflict. Forget monsters hiding in the woods. This is like sophisticated, ritualized consumption by the elite.
This club, 7 powerful humans named after the 7 lucky gods, which is incredibly ironic.
Deeply ironic.
And their big tradition is eating a Tanuki hot pot at the end of the year. Nabe. And that's how Suichiro, the dad, died.
It creates this really uncomfortable feeling for the viewer, right? Because we get to know the Tanuki, we see their families, their feelings, their people, essentially.
Yeah.
But to the Friday fellas, they're just an exotic ingredient. Their sentience is completely ignored, or maybe they just don't care. It asks some hard questions about, indifference, moral blind spots, how easily cruelty can be dressed up as tradition or sophistication.
And the Tanuki themselves almost seem to accept it as a possibility. It's strange. And Benton being in the club, that just complicates everything even more. Victim, perpetrator, observer, just all of it.
It's messy, purposely so, I think.
Okay, let's focus on the characters themselves. We see how the folklore shapes the world, but how does it shape the people, well, the Tanuki and Tengu inside? Their development.
Take the Shimogamo brothers. The four of them together are almost like a deconstruction of their dad, Soichiro. He was seen as this perfect Tanuki, the ideal.
And his death shattered that.
Exactly. So now the brothers are left picking up the pieces of that legacy, each embodying a different aspect of what it means to be a Shimogamo, or even just a Tanuki.
Keiichiro's the oldest. He feels the pressure, right?
Yeah.
Tries to be the responsible leader, follow in his dad's footsteps, win the election, but he struggles.
He really does. Then there's Yatiro, the second son. He embodies that Tanuki ability to retreat, to transform, to escape.
Yeah.
He felt so guilty about something.
About their father's death.
Yeah, connected to it. So he turned himself into a frog and got stuck, living at the bottom of a well.
Literally a frog in a well. Wow.
It's such a literal metaphor for psychological withdrawal, isn't it? Completely cut off. His whole journey is about finding a way back, realizing even his unique, watery perspective has value.
And Yasuburo, our main character, he seems the most like his dad in spirit, the idiot blood incarnate.
Definitely. He's the trickster, the one who shapeshifts just for the hell of it, finds joy in the weirdness, like pretending to be a schoolgirl.
He seems pretty carefree.
On the surface. But his arc is about learning to balance that love of fun with, the grief he's carrying and the responsibilities that start piling up, protecting his family, helping Akadama.
And the youngest, Yoshiro.
Yashiro's adorable. He's the timid side of the Tanuki. Easily scared, his little tail pops out.
Yeah.
Classic Tanuki trait in folklore, showing their true nature when startled. His journey is about finding his bravery.
So none of them can be their dad alone.
No way. But together, by relying on each other's very different strength, Yakiro's sense of duty, Yajiro's quiet wisdom, Yasuburu's cleverness, Yashiro's hidden courage, they kind of rebuild that legacy, not by replacing their father, but by strengthening the family itself. It's really about healing. Collectively.
That's beautifully put. Now, what about those characters who don't quite fit? Benton, who we mentioned, and the Nidaime, they exist between the lines.
They really do. Benton, the human girl raised by a Tengu. She floats between worlds. Human student, Tengu apprentice, member of the Friday Fellows, sometimes acting like a celestial maiden. She collects these identities, but none of them stick. None of them feel like home.
And her power isolates her.
Hugely. She's incredibly powerful thanks to Akadama, but it leaves her utterly alone, always searching for something interesting to distract her from that emptiness.
And the Nidaime, he's Akadama's actual son, right? A real Tengu.
A pure Tengu, yes. But he completely rejects it. Spent years in England, comes back acting very British, very aloof. He defines himself by not being like his father, not being part of the local Tengu or Tanuki world.
So another outsider, but by choice?
Sort of by choice, yes. But the result is similar to Benton's situation. Both of them are stranded in this weird in-between space. They share this profound loneliness, this difficulty connecting.
They seem drawn to each other, though, like they recognize something similar.
There's definitely a strange connection, a push and pull. They see the alienation in each other. Their stories together really raise questions about identity. Is it blood? Is it choice? The anime suggests it's this really difficult negotiation between the two. And trying to completely break free from your roots, your community. Well, it might leave you powerful, but also desperately alone. It's kind of a warning about needing somewhere to belong.
Okay, so pulling it all together, we've seen the folklore, the world building, the characters. What are the big thematic takeaways? What's the Eccentric Family really saying by using these myths?
Well, the title says a lot, right? The Eccentric Family. The core theme is family itself.
Yeah.
Specifically the Shimogamo family and how their slightly crazy, chaotic, but ultimately unwavering bond is their greatest strength.
It's how they survive.
Literally. In a world where you might end up in a hot pot, relying on each other, forgiving each other, supporting each other's eccentricities, that's everything.
And that's contrasted with the Ibisugawa family.
Sharply contrasted.
Yeah.
The Ibisugawa are eaten up by jealousy, ambition, betrayal from within. They lack that glue.
And the Shimogama glue is the idiot blood.
It really is. It's that shared philosophy. Value joy, value connection, value living an interesting life together. More than just power or status. Family isn't just blood relation. It's a shared way of looking at the world.
What about identity? The shape-shifting seems key there.
Absolutely. Shape-shifting isn't just a cool power. It's a constant metaphor for identity itself. Characters are always asking, what makes a proper Tanuki? Or what makes a proper Tengu? Is it blood, behavior, following tradition?
Yasaburo's transformations, like into the schoolgirl, feel like him playing with identity, embracing freedom.
Yes, but the show adds a layer. Remember the idea that strong emotions or a specific vulnerability can force a Tanuki back into their true form.
Right. For Yasaburo, it's his cousin Kaise. He can't hold a transformation around her.
And he has this realization, this epiphany, that being forced to be his true, undisguised, vulnerable self with her, that's actually more freeing than any disguise he could put on.
So true freedom isn't being anyone you want.
Maybe true freedom is having the courage to be who you actually are, warts and all. It's a critique of just performing identities, suggesting authenticity is where real connection happens.
That's deep. Finally, there's that undercurrent about tradition versus modernity in Japan. How do the different groups represent that debate?
It's woven throughout. The Shimogamo, living in their ancient forest shrine, they feel like a living tradition. Adaptable, maybe a bit chaotic, but alive. Their idiot blood keeps the spirit of the past going, but in a heartfelt, not rigid way.
And the Ebisugawa are the opposite.
They seem to represent a kind of empty modernity. They've swapped the Tanuki spirit of fun and cleverness for like commercialism and backstabbing politics. They want the traditional title, nice man, but just as a status symbol, without understanding its real meaning.
And the Nidam, the Tengu-san back from England.
He's maybe a third way. A complete rejection of Japanese tradition in favor of something imported, something foreign. He defines himself against the local culture.
So which path wins out in the end? What does the series seem to value most?
It really champions the Shimogamo way, I think. Tradition that stays alive because it's flexible, because it's rooted in love, and because it's not afraid to be a little bit foolish. Tradition isn't dead rules. It's a spirit you have to keep renewing generation after generation.
Wow. So wrapping up, the Eccentric Family is just, it's so much more than a fantasy anime. It uses these old myths, Tanuki shape-shifting for identity, Tengu pride for loss, to explore really contemporary human things.
Totally. Grounding it all in that detailed Kyoto setting, focusing on family dynamics. It lets the show talk about grief, love, guilt, finding joy, all through this fantastical lens.
It really shows how powerful folklore can still be, doesn't it? How these ancient stories can speak to us now.
Absolutely. It proves that the best stories, the most interesting ones maybe, are the ones that show us the magic hidden in ordinary life and the incredible strength we find in connecting with each other.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. Next time you encounter some folklore, or even just feel that tension between old ways and new ways in your own life, think about it. What traditions do you want to keep alive? And how can you make them part of your own interesting life?